So my mind was, okay, this is not happening like I need it to happen. I'm going to go ahead and reinvent myself. So what I did was I actually ended up finding a direct sales door-to-door industry. And I went and knocked on doors and sold books and magazines for 3 years.
We always in survival mode.
Absolutely.
We as a people, we haven't gotten to that point yet to where we just is on everything on cruise control yet.
A 17-year-old you, how did you perceive yourself then? Because fresh genre.
Yes.
You done kind of made or separated yourself from the other two. How did you feel?
Hey, what's up? It's Prince. And this is another episode of For the Culture. Today's special guest, man, I can't even. It's like a dream come true right here. You know, we got a true legend in the house, right? This is one of hip hop's first commercial successful superstars, right here. Record called Rapper's Delight, sold over 2 million copies.
More than that.
Know what I'm saying? Yeah, more than that. My bad.
Multi-million.
You know?
Yeah, but it's good.
But look, you know, got an entrepreneur in the house too.
Yes.
You know, we got the MAS,
The TE.
the G to the double E. We got my man Master G in the
What up,
house.
baby?
You know
How you
what
doing,
I'm
Prince?
saying?
What's up, Los? How you
What's
doing?
up?
Y'all good?
Peace and blessings.
Yes. Yeah, what's up, everybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
So today, man, this is real special to
Yes.
me. We appreciate you coming through. All
You know I
that
was
good
gonna do
stuff.
that.
Yeah.
You know I was
yeah,
gonna do that.
Yeah.
We made our union, you know,
Facts.
a few
facts.
weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But we're gonna just have a conversation
Yeah,
today.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
This ain't a podcast or nothing
No, we
like
just
that.
vibing.
This is a show.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's conversation.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a vibe, man.
Well, you know, it's like we talk about, man.
Yeah.
You know, it was compelling, you know, and the best way to do it is just to kind of really get into how we even came about.
Yeah.
I was in the area, you know, DMV area, and in this area that where we're at right now, the harbor, and the energy just brought me in here. I saw the love, and I'm all about love and good vibrations, you know. So I came in and just, you know, and we talk about this too. I don't project that, you know, I am this person. You know, that's not my energy. That's not my movement. I'm a human being like everybody else.
Right.
So I came in on that level and, you know, interacted with the young lady and the whole 9 yards and purchased some stuff. And time went on and, you know, I was doing my thing. And then we got to this point where, you know, I've been in this rebrand situation. So first I had to repair the Sugarhill Gang brand, and then I've been in the process for the past few years of rebranding Sugarhill Gang. And so we got the opportunity to do the BT situation. And so I'm my own stylist, and I really pay close attention to how I'm presented, you know. So I knew that this was gonna be my opportunity for millions of people to see me, and that hadn't seen me in a long time. Now, concert-wise, city to city, you know, internet, whatever, people have seen me on those different platforms. But the BET was the different situation. That's, you know, turn your television on, boom, you're there. You know, so shirt-wise, I knew what I was going to do. I wanted to have some kind of, you know, artistic jacket, because I always do some sort of jacket. But I wanted to put out a message that coincides with what I'm about. So I'm about love and good vibration. I preach this on stage. I preach this in my own Sirius XM show. I preach this in my movie. Anything that I do, I'm preaching love and good vibration. So I had bought these slacks from you guys, and I said, okay, you know what? I'm gonna wear these pants during this performance. And that's what happened. And you know, if anybody was paying attention, they'd have been like, wait a minute, what does he have on his guy?
Yeah.
Oh, damn, because what people don't really get is that it's more than just this music, this art form, this phenomena that has happened since Mike Hank and myself. What people don't understand, man, is there's more than one message, you know. And my message, based on my evolution, is love and good vibrations. So that's why it worked out so well, and that's why, you know, I stood in front of millions of people and wore those pants.
Yeah, that's a fact. That was all love too, man. I appreciate that. I was like humbled by that because, like, I remember. I think I had missed you when you came in.
Yes, that's what happened.
And everything.
Yeah, you
and
weren't here that day.
Yeah, so after the award show and everything happened, y'all performed. I had somebody hit me up in the DMs and was like, "Hey, I think Master G had on y'all pants and everything," and they sent the clip, and I looked and I was like, "Yep," and that like blew my mind right there.
And then my wife, being, you know, who she is, she's social butterfly of the DMV. She should be on one of them housewife shows anyway, because she's that kind of like, not drama wise, but that social social prolificness. She came in, and that's how the conversation ensued. You know, she got to talking, and my husband, and you know, and then at that point, again, my energy is my motivation. You know, we connected, and we came. And, you know, I came through, stopped what I was doing, and we came and sat down and broke bread, and we vibed. And it's what I felt it was before I even met you guys. You know, I felt like you said, from an entrepreneur level, the fact that you're young black entrepreneurs, I'm pro-black. You know what I mean? And I'm promoting anything that's about blackness and economic blackness.
Come on.
More important. See, this is what people are missing, I think, personally. I think that it's okay to stomp your feet and pound about what should be or what needs to be, but the way that you really get the world's attention is to empower yourself economically.
Come on.
And then once you do that, people are going to take you in a more serious method. The only reason why people deal with me and respect me is because I'm a successful businessman. You know what I mean? You know, my companies generate, you know, huge sums of money for many different people. We put food in many people's mouths. So if I say I got an opinion on something, what you got to say, G? You know? And that's what I'm working to promote. So you can create love in an economic situation, and that's what you guys are doing. What are you doing? The shop's about love in an economic situation. So that's why it works.
Yep, community building, man.
There you go.
That speaks volumes because that was the intent, you know, when we first put the store here.
Exactly.
And the brand itself, what we're putting on the clothing is to make people to feel some type of way. You know what I mean?
I do.
To make people think about, like, they see that message on the apparel and they like, oh, whoa, okay, community love, oh, okay, killing with kindness, oh, okay, like,
right.
It's like, oh, I see where they headed with that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So, but for me, each one of those things that we put on the apparel in the store is about community building. It's one of those small things or elements that involved in making a community successful or grow or be prosperous. You know what I'm saying?
100%, because that's what it's about. And that's the thing that, again, I'm working to promote, and why it's so important for me to be here and for us to be vibing, is the fact that we got to do it on a generational basis. You know, people need to see that the older generation and the younger generation can merge on a positive level. You know, I sometimes have to kind of direct my peers, because they're, you know, the young people. Hold up, man. No, we were once those people.
Come on now, preach, preach.
You know, I get a lot of times that, you know, I'll do a concert, and, you know, the Grown and Sexy show up. They show up for us, you know, and so, but a Sugarhill fan is a fan from, you know, I read at a preschool today, and they did a whole bit to jump on it. You know what I mean? And we're talking about 3 and 4 years old, you know, and then I got guys that, you know, my age that was there when we dropped Rappers Delight. You know what I mean? I was there when I heard it on the radio, you know. And what I try to do is that I have to kind of direct them is something that they say that kind of upsets, it doesn't upset me, but I just got to kind of, oh man, the stuff today, it ain't like what you did. And I got to stop them. Hey man, go back. We were the young people.
Come on.
We were the 20s and the 50s. The people, I was 17 years old when I recorded these records. 18, 19, 20 years old. Same age as Drake was, the same age as Wayne, the same age as Lil Baby, the same age as all these different people. So what I have to explain to people is, and everything that you're saying about the music of today was said about my music.
The older generation then didn't like
y'all's
music.
Trust me, I know. I tell people this. Every single thing you're saying, you got to think about it. You're 50, 60 years old. So the people that were listening to me, they were used to listening to the Spinners and the Four Tops and the Temptations and Funkadelic and Lionel Richie and so forth and so on. So here you come with this form of music, and it ain't music. People said it about my songs. The same songs that you say, and I'm talking to people my age and older. Same songs that you're talking about, that was music. This is the same thing that people are saying. That ain't music. Music is,
that's true.
Sly and the Family Stone.
Come on now.
That's
Come
true,
on.
because I remember I was watching a clip of you guys, right? And some of the people in the audience, right, while you guys were rapping and everything, y'all were dressed different. You know what I mean? So it looked like the crowd was still on with the Spinners were on. You know what I'm saying? They still had the bell bottles and all that. Y'all had already switched the style.
Evolved.
We had already gone into the next.
I think you had on
dimension.
a members only jacket.
Yes,
or something
you're talking
like
about Soul
that.
Train.
Yeah. So I was like,
that was Soul Train. That was Soul Train.
Yeah, y'all was already.
Yeah, we had already.
setting the trend.
We were already members only was the deal, and Capizios with the shoes, and it was the whole suit. I just once again my own designer, so it was a members only suit. With it was a powder blue members only suit with Capizio shoes, and I had a rhinestone bow tie. I remember. So that was the look, because members only was the thing. We talked, that was 1981. So you got to remember, everybody that was 70s, 50s, 60s, all of that, they were looking at that like, especially Soul Train. Because Soul Train, everybody before, we're the first to do everything. So let's make that be known. We're the first to do everything. We're the first to be on television, first to sell platinum records, first to tour the world, first to, see real money. We're the first to do anything. So the first rap group ever on Soul Train was Mike Hank and myself.
Come on.
So the generation that was used to seeing Barry White was looking at Soul Train like,
who are they?
what is this? This is. So I tried, that's why I say, which gets me back to my point where I have to let people know, you have to understand that this is a form of music that speaks to the language and it speaks to the energy of the young. So what we have to do as the older generation, the people that have the experiences, you got to merge with the young.
Come on now.
That's where we're having issues at.
So question, right?
Yes.
How do we help guide them, though, right? If we see it veering off track. Right?
That's a great question.
Because hip hop does have a certain spirit, right? And it can deviate from time to time. We've seen it do that throughout.
Yes, absolutely.
But how do we guide them to bring them back into
It's got to be. It's a visibility factor. It's like what we're doing now. See, so let's take, LL. Let's use LL as an example. He's somewhat of that generation of that time. He's another successful person. He's another person in this music that has evolved. What people have to do is allow that dialogue. To do what we're doing right now is what has to start happening in every aspect of this. We have to continue and it's got to be people, I shouldn't say it has to be. I suggest that it's people that people feel like have made a difference, have an impact in some way, shape, or form. You're making moves, you're successful in the business, you're actively, touring now. Because that's a lot of times what people say with an older generation, younger generation person, they'll say, well, look, I'm out here. Well, you can't talk that to me. I'm out here too. You know what I mean? Well, I'm doing a concert in Monte Carlo in June. You know what I mean? I'm going to do a concert in Monte. I'll be in England, Brussels, Amsterdam.
You out here.
Monte Carlo, and I'm doing all that. So when you come talk to me about performing in front of people all over the world, I'm my fingers on the pulse. So we have to put these kind of people in the same space and get that dialogue going. And then what happens is, and then more often than not, the older person has to be more willing to listen to the younger person. You see what I'm saying? If I'm not willing to come in and absorb this energy, then I can't get better. But I can't give you an opportunity to be better if you don't allow yourself to see what you can become.
Iron sharpens iron.
Right.
It does. I think I seen KRS
Right.
once saying something in an interview about like the older generation needs to listen to the younger generation needs to listen to the older generation.
There you go.
Because if the younger generation listens to the older generation, they can move much faster.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And then
You don't hit the
vice
same
versa,
bumps.
The older generation can move much faster too.
You
They
can stay
have
current.
motion too,
You can
so,
stay relative.
Yeah, that's a
You know,
fact.
that's my one of the greatest gifts that I have is that I'm able to move through many different walks of life. We talked about this before the show started. You know, when you have those abilities, you know, to be able to be where you need to be, you're able to move a lot quicker. You're more effective. You're more efficient. You know, if you're only one dimensional in a multi-dimensional world, there's only so far you're going to go. You're going to hit that ceiling.
This is true. This is true.
Just to y'all's point, that goes just to our community as a whole.
Yes.
While we are, yes, speaking about music, but the older generation, period, it seems as if they don't
Right.
remember being young.
You gotta be. You gotta remember.
And the young, while we understand,
You don't believe that you're gonna be old.
exactly,
But
but
you are.
this is going
If
to happen
you're
as long as you
fortunate,
keep
you're
living.
gonna get here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just to that point, that's how our whole community literally becomes a community. When older, there's a middle ground. You
Yes.
got older, then you got the middle, the
Yeah.
40s or whatever.
Yes.
Then you have the younger.
Right.
And information is normally given from older downward.
Yeah.
And then passed back from younger forward.
And that's what I've been working to do on a regular basis. That's why I say, like a situation like what we have now is so vital. You know, the fact that we're sitting here and we're doing this, and we're letting people know, you know, this is the natural order of things, not that other nonsense.
It would have been almost great if we could have had a younger person here.
Well, we do it again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not going anywhere.
It's just my mind state that it
I ain't going
got
nowhere.
the running.
The thing
because-
is,
do it
though,
again.
it's about, you know, like you said, being the example, right?
Right.
Because in order for a young person to have longevity, right, and that's the goal, to have longevity.
The long
You
game.
know what I mean?
Gotta have the
you
guidance.
can really say like, well, look at me. You want to get to where I'm at to be able to spend your money, right?
There
You
you
don't
go.
just want to be able to spend it in your 20s.
Exactly.
You know
Come
what
on
I'm saying?
now.
Because a
Yeah.
lot of them, you know, we all, you know, all falling victim to, you know,
It's real, man. It's real.
things that's going on
It's real.
besides the jail.
Yeah,
or,
it's real.
Or,
Yeah.
you know, the graveyard. You know what I'm saying?
It's real.
And,
That's more present in our community than many other communities because the options are limited in our
It's a
community.
fact.
You know, so that's why that's real.
It's a fact.
You know,
It's a
nobody wants to fail.
No.
Nobody's born to fail. You know, and if you're aspiring to do and see what you see, and you have a limited amount of opportunities, if you got any win in you at all, you're gonna do what you got to do.
Come on now.
You know, it might not necessarily be the moral thing to do,
But
but you got to feed your family. You got a kid to feed. You got a old lady to take care of. Or you know, you want to live a life that aspire to be respected. So
That's a fact.
those are things that people don't always understand either. People in our communities are forced to do things based on the situation.
survival mode.
Yeah, there you go.
We always in survival mode.
Absolutely.
Like we as a people, we haven't gotten to that point yet to where we just is on everything on cruise control.
Yeah,
yet.
no,
You know what I mean?
no.
We're always
Yes.
thinking in survival.
The next
mode.
move,
So,
yes.
yeah,
What's the next move?
What's the next
Yes.
move type thing. But let's get back to you though. I want the people who
Okay.
don't know, like the younger audience that's gonna be looking at that, right?
Yeah.
You know, let's start out with your story, right? Y'all were founded by, correct me if I'm wrong, by Sylvia Robinson.
Yes.
Okay.
So
How did all of that go?
Yes,
How did
so
that take place?
So this all hip hop, the birth of hip hop was in the New York metropolitan area. So I'm originally from the New York metropolitan area. So what I mean by that, I was born in New York and I was raised on the George Washington Bridge. So,
Okay.
so when you grow up in New York or you're born in that area, what'll happen a lot of times is because the Bronx and Harlem and all of that is literally northern New Jersey is literally the George Washington Bridge. So you're talking about a 20-minute ride from northern New Jersey to Harlem, to the Bronx, whatever. So my dad's parents lived in the Bronx. My mom's people lived in Brooklyn. So my whole life was spent going back and forth across the George Washington Bridge. That's why I tell people I was raised on the George Washington Bridge.
Yeah.
So hip hop being a New York-based thing, in those days, and we're going way back, we talk about the 70s now,
Yes.
this is before people even knew that the planet existed, everything was word of mouth. You know, there was no, we're talking about a time where there was no internet, there was no cell phones, you know, there was no...
But the rotary.
There was, it was rotary, push button, wire in the wall, you know, that kind of thing. You know, word of mouth was how, especially in our community, information was passed. Barbershop, you know, beauty salon, high school basketball game, whatever the case may be, rec center, you know, that's where communities and information was disseminated. So I was doing a DJ thing. So at that time, we're talking about 77, early 70s, I had started doing parties in the Hackensack area. And I saw a guy who was in a class, upperclassman, he was doing parties, but I heard him talking one night at a party. Like I wasn't doing a party, I went to his party, he was talking over the music. Now as a DJ, the cardinal sin is not to talk over the music. This particular night, this guy was talking on the music. So I went up to him and I was like, hey Mark, his name was Mark Green, and shout out to Mark Green. So Mark, what was that you were doing on the music? He said, yo man, that's rapping. That's what they're doing over in New York. So me, being the entrepreneur that I've always been, I'm like, okay, in order for me to get more parties, I better learn how to rap.
Come on now.
So I paid attention. I'm a good student of people. So I listened. You know, the second time I said, okay, let me pay attention to what he's doing. First I said it was talking, then I said, oh, he's rhyming
Over the music.
the last word. Every sentence, the words rhyme. So it's a poem. Okay, and he's doing it in time. So originally I started out as a drummer because I grew up in a jazz background. My dad was a trumpet player. We had a studio in the basement of our house in Teaneck, New Jersey. So I grew up around music and I started playing drums at 7 years old. So right away I went to the musician in me and I heard the words as beats. So I'm like, okay, I get it now. And that's what happened. So again, on a business side, I went and I, you know, constructed this rap and, you know, and I started rapping at my party. So, and my deal was on the weekends, because we're going now, I started rapping when I was 15. So you got 15, 16, 17. So it's the 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. Okay. So on the weekends, you had, let's say, your girlfriend at the time, her house. You know, everybody had basements in New Jersey.
Right.
So so-and-so had a basement. We would talk such and so-and-so's parents to let her, she would talk to have a party. So you hear about the basement parties. Okay, well what would happen is the grown-ups would stay in the kitchen. So all the houses in New Jersey were kind of like a certain way. You came to the side of the house, you went in, the kitchen was kind of right here, and then it was stairs that went down to the basement. And the grown folks stayed up in the kitchen, and they drank and did their thing, they chaperoned, and everybody went downstairs. And I would be downstairs with stereo equipment, speakers, turntables, microphones, the whole 9 yards, and we'd set up Cheryl O'Neal's basement like a party, like a disco. And we would play the jams. We'd play the local jams, and I'd scratch records and rap and the whole 9 yards. And I developed a reputation in my high school for being, you know, a good rapper and a good DJ. And that's kind of what ended up happening. So going to Sylvia, again, it was still a street thing. And now all the while, let me put that into the equation, all the while, New York is having their own experience. But I'm too young, I don't even know what's going on in New York. I'm 15, 16 years old, Jersey, coming up in the suburbs, my mom's not letting me hang out in the Bronx and in Harlem and all that. I'm only going to Mount Vernon to see my grandmother. I'm only going to Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy to see my grandmother. I'm going to Madison Square Garden in Manhattan. So I'm in the city, but I'm not in the streets. So I don't know that this is a form of music that's developing right before me. I'm thinking I heard about it and I'm doing it. So that's what happened. Sylvia happened to go to a party in New York. Now Sylvia's history was she was a 70s and a 50s star. She sung with another cat named Nikki and Sylvia. There's a song called Love is Strange. Look it up. It's a classic. It's been used in movies and commercials, and that's how she started her career. And her husband started a record company. Then she started producing and writing songs with a group called The Moments. Okay, Love is Strange, Love on a Two-Way Street. Again, The Moments, Harry Ray, Billy Brown, and Al Goodman. That's another situation. she had another song in the 70s called Pillow Talk. That was like the first time somebody was really risky. She was early Donna Summers.
Okay.
Okay, so Donna Summers came out later on that same year of my time with Love to Love You Baby. Oh, love to love you baby. She came up with a song called Pillow Talk in the 70s. So that's kind of her whole thing. So she was in the record business, she had the machine. She went to a party in New York. She went to a place called Harlem World, saw a guy named Lovebug Starsky rapping at the party. So being the genius that she was, because she was already a songwriter, a producer, she had the machine, she asked, had this form been recorded? And at the time, it hadn't been done. It had only been done on cassette tapes. So like you would come to my party and you would record my party. Then Monday in school, you put it in the boombox and you play. This is what G's party was. This is what he played. This is what happened. And then they would pass it around, and that's how it got distributed, you know. Or let's say you came up from DC and you was at the party. You recorded it. You got the tape. Now you came back here.
And
You bring it down here, they hearing it on the tape.
But
still,
it wasn't duplicated.
It was not recorded. The only way, what would happen is somebody would duplicate the tape.
Yeah.
But there was nothing, there was no way you could go to buy.
Was that like against the rules to like duplicate?
No, because at the time, that was the
wasn't
only
done.
way that you could get it.
Okay.
You know, I went to the party, man. I went to this party in Jersey, and this guy was rapping, and I said, listen, oh man, that's fly, you know, this whatever, blah, 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 blah. Okay, yeah, copy it. Now he's got it. You know, that was the only way it was going. So when she found out it hadn't been done because she had the machine, she came up with the idea of this needs to be recorded. And that's what ended up happening. So she, you know, in the process of her looking for somebody that they were originally going to use, who turned them down that night, because they had already decided that they were going to use the music. Good Times was re-recorded. So there was no such thing as samples in 1979. That's another thing people don't realize. You know,
Everything
now
was
everybody thinks
fresh.
everything is sampled.
Yeah.
No, it was recorded from scratch. And the reason why there's no vocals, because the original Good Times has singing in it.
Right.
The reason why Rapper's Delight has no vocals in it is because it was recorded like a DJ was cutting it. Which what did the DJ do? The DJ extended the instrumental part so the rapper could rap on top. So what she instructed the musicians to do is just play the groove.
They played it live.
Play it live. So they already had the music. They were going to use a guy that she had heard on the tape. The guy turned her down. In the process of that going on, there was a pizza parlor on the main drag of our neighborhood. This dude from the Bronx that we all knew that was a rapper, they knew he could rap. So they were over in the pizza parlor listening to Big Bang Hank.
Come on.
In the process of listening to Hank, my friend and I were walking down the street on my way home. They stopped. My friend knows Sylvia, and they know her son Joey, so he's talking to her. And what are you doing? My mom is looking for people to rap. Oh, you want to hear somebody rap? You got to listen to Guy. He's crazy. So I get in the back of the car. We all go up to her house because now we're thinking it's going to be one person, because that's what the conversation was. My mom's looking for somebody to rap. She's trying to do a record.
So you thinking it's a competition?
I'm thinking it's a competition. So we get up to the house and I'm going back and forth, and it's like this. We're on the couch and battling, you know, whoop-de-woo, I'm coming up my stuff, and Mike was kind of in the background the whole time. Things over with, she really didn't decide, everybody's getting ready to go in their own direction, and Mike says, well, Miss Robinson, I know you heard me on a tape when you were initially looking for rappers. I had a cold that day. Would you mind listening to me again? So it was like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. She's like, okay, fine, go ahead. He loses his mind. He goes off and he starts, you know, rocking and da-da-da. And she said at that moment, she said, you know what? I'm not going to choose between the three of you. 3 is my favorite number. I'm going to put the 3 of you together. That's how the group got started.
Genius.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then,
History
you know,
was made.
And that's how it was made. Yeah. A couple of days later, we ended up, you know, at her studio, and, you know, we decided based on, you know, what Mike had written and what Hank had. That's a whole nother story. What Mike had written, what Hank had, and what I wrote, how the order was going to be. You know, because Mike said, what you hear is not a test. I'm rapping to the beat. He was the best way to describe, because again, we're going back to nobody had ever heard this other than in the New York area or in little places. So now you're getting ready to tell the world what this song is. So when he said, what you hear is not a test, I'm rapping to the beat, that was a perfect way to open up the song.
Got it.
And who are you? Well, me, the Groove, and my friends are going to try to move your feet. Well, what's your name? Well, I'm Wonder Mike. And I like to say hello. Well, who you want to say hello to? The white, the black, the red, the brown, the purple, and the yellow.
Yeah,
But
let's go.
first I got to bang, bang the boogie. Now, so far you heard my voice, but I brought 2 friends along Next on the mic is my man Hank, and that's how it started working. Good, going. Then Hank said what he said, and then because I'm looking at it from a author's perspective, no videos, no visual. You're not going to see us visually. You're only going to hear us. I needed to figure out a way to separate myself from the two of them. So I decided to spell my name.
Wow.
Well, what's your name? Well, I'm the M-A-S, the T-E-R, the G with a double E. Now, here goes the lies. And I go by the unforgettable name of the man they call the Master G. My name is known all over the world by all the foxy ladies and the pretty girls. I'm trying to get a date.
Come on,
You know, I'm 17, I'm in high school. Gotta remember, this is junior year, going to senior year. So my thing is, and I'm a Jersey kid, I'm a suburb kid. So I'm thinking about dates and having a good time. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna floss on the record. I guess by now you can take a hunch and find that I'm the baby of the bunch. Mike is 6'5", Hank was 6'1". I wanted everybody to know when they came to see us that the little guy was Master G.
Come on.
And so that's the whole reason why I wrote that rap. That rap is to describe what we were doing, who we are, and what we wanted to happen.
So you flossed on them on your verse.
Right off the rip.
It was like that was like the first floss on a record.
Ever.
Right? You know
Yes.
what I mean?
I was letting it be known.
Well, that record was so big
Yes.
though, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, y'all sold like
Millions.
Millions.
Yeah. Record sold millions, yes.
Did y'all come under a little fire for the good times?
So we did. We went through some legal aspects because we weren't handling that aspect of the music. So unfortunately, the label didn't really take care of all the things they needed to take care of. So there were some situations that had to be resolved. Some writing credits that had to be given, and moving forward, it was established that a certain amount of ownership went to Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards for the song. So we wrote the words. The music is Nile Rodgers.
Even though y'all had it played live, it's still
because it's still his. It was their composition.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was definitely their composition. It was a direct re-record of the bass line. Everything is exactly the same as the original Good Times. That's why when they play Good Times, they normally play Rapper's Delight right with it because it's the same song. Yeah.
Now looking back, a 17-year-old you, how did you perceive yourself then? Because fresh genre.
Yes.
You done kind of made or separated yourself from the other two. How did you feel? Because there's a feeling and an emotion that always goes with everything.
Yeah. Well, I came from a crazy upbringing. My mother in 1962, I was born in 1962. My mother had me when she was 15 years old. So in 1962, to have a baby at 15 is not like it is in 2025. Now it's, not even a thought.
Yeah.
Explain that.
Well, there was a certain set of code of ethics that you lived by in those days. Not taking anything away from the women of today, but it was a much more stricter environment. So it wasn't that women weren't getting pregnant. It's just that it was not socially accepted like it eventually ended up becoming.
Got it.
So when my mother got pregnant, she was basically a Catholic school girl, 15 years old. She was like 9th or 10th grade. It was like she had become a pariah. People looked at her a certain way. It wasn't like now, people are pregnant and they can walk through the hallways in the school. They weren't allowing that to happen in 1962. You know what I mean? So from day one, my whole existence has always been kind of a weird thing because I wasn't really allowed to live. my mother refused to get rid of me.
Thank God.
She refused to do it. You know, she got the scrutiny of life. She got pressure put on her. She got, you know, her mother was, you know, and she refused to. She had me. So I started from that, and then, you know, growing up in the hard situations, and I always came out like I came from an environment where I never felt 100%. I never felt like I mattered on a grand scale. So the transition from that to now, you know, I'm the biggest thing in the country. You know, it was a wild experience. And then what made it even wilder was, now I grew up in an environment where I never thought that I mattered or I was equal or I was, you know, with the rest of the crew. And then every group has a star. Every group has a star. And I ended up becoming the star of the group, which I did not participate. Michael Wright, back in those days, it was the light-skinned guy with the green eyes. That was the deal back in the day. Dark-skinned brothers didn't come in until later.
They trying to bring the light skin.
They trying, but it ain't happening. No, I'm joking. No, but dark-skinned in my days. So Mike was light-skinned with green eyes and curly hair. So I'm like, okay, I already know. Here we go again. Step back, take the back seat. It's going to be him. And then we doing shows, and, you know, I can't get out of the venue, and I need bodyguards. I'm like, and everybody else is going through what they're going through, but mine is a little bit louder. The screams are a little bit. So that's kind of part of what happened with my journey. The more I started realizing that I was legitimately another individual, I was no longer, like I told you, as a human being, I ceased to exist on a normal basis. And it's been that way for 45 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
That's
never
what's up,
changed.
though. It's the swag, man. It was the swag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I had one of my older cousins tell me a long time ago, because, you know, you do have that little complex when you coming up. Like, dang, I ain't got the curly hair. I ain't light skinned. You know, and my cousin pulled me to the side. He told me, he said, it don't even matter about none of that, man. He was like, as long as you use what you got.
That's it.
You know what I mean? And that changed my whole perspective on things.
Yeah, no, I had to come to terms with it, and I realized, you know, early on in my career as an entertainer, I realized that entertaining was my thing. That music and writing songs and performing was my thing, and I was very effective in front of an audience.
So at that time, did you feel like you were living in your purpose? Because before that, like, you couldn't even sing that.
I had no clue. Right.
You know what I mean? So when everything was happening, did you realize it at that point? Like, this is what I'm here for.
It happened. I was on stage one night doing a show, and I was still kind of teenager, figuring it out, having fun, and it clicked. Like, oh wow, this is my thing.
This is where I'm at.
This is my thing. I realized it, and from that point on, I started to build on that thought process. Now I became a better student. You know, I started analyzing other entertainers: Jackie Wilson, James Brown, Otis Redding. I started all of these entertainers that were before me. I started studying them. You know, Prince and all these other people that was my contemporary, but there was all these other people. I started becoming their students, and I started adapting what I saw and what I heard. I listened to stories. I go to older people and tell me stories. The groups of back in the day. That's one of the reasons why we wore stage outfits. You know, in our day, you wore stage outfits. So they call it a stage costume. To this day, I still will not go on stage with what I have on right now. I'll come in a venue dressed the way I'm dressed and then change into a stage outfit. That's kind of like a forgotten thought, but what that does is it again establishes you as somebody that people can aspire to be, or somebody could admire at the time that you're doing it.
Becoming a role model.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Kind of to your point, or like a superhero.
Exactly.
You change it from one outfit
right
into your next.
Absolutely. No, that's definitely what it is. So I tell people that Guy O'Brien and Master G are two people, two different people. You know what I mean? Like right now, I'm speaking to you as Guy O'Brien, but you come see me at a Sugarhill Gang concert, And the minute I
Master
step
G.
on that stage,
Oh, yeah.
I become Master G.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the
Yeah.
player, the ladies' man, you know, the da-da-da-da, the mover and the shaker.
You
but
even
right,
feel different,
I,
right?
I am different. So what happens a lot of times is, let's say this is the threshold of the stage. So I'm coming out the backstage and we talking like we talking right now. Kick it. The minute I cross that threshold,
It's over.
I become Master G. It's a whole nother situation. And I'm free there.
How do you get into that mode?
It happens naturally. What happens is I'm already doing my thing. The energy and the time and the effort that was spent for me to be able to do my thing, it's a natural progression from what I'm doing. It's the same exact thing, because here's the extra element. It's the same exact thing I did when I was at Cheryl O'Neal's house in 1977.
And you
It's
captive.
the same person.
You locked in the
I'm him.
mentality.
I'm rocking a party.
So it came natural for you.
It might be, yes, it might be 80,000 people, but I'm still rocking a party because it's my thing. Like I said, once I realized that rocking parties was my thing, it never left me, not even to this day.
You work out, so
Yes.
you know they say muscles have memory, but your memory
Has memory.
have muscles.
No question.
You locked in, was
Right.
able to lock in to what you felt,
Right.
the emotion and
Yeah.
everything.
So every
from
time I
then,
cross that stage, that
you bring
feeling
that
hits
same
me.
emotion.
Yes, and
And-
that feeling hits me. And once that feeling hits me, I'm that
You Master
person.
G.
And I'm that person if it's 20 minutes or if it's 2 hours. I'm that person. And the cool thing about it, and the fun thing is, I can be Master G, walk right off the stage and be Guy O'Brien again, and walk back on stage and be Master G, all in a matter of seconds. I could get off the stage and talk to you about properties and this and that and other thing and blah, 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 blah. And then when it's time for me to go back, hey, what's going on,
Yeah,
blah,
yeah.
blah, 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 blah. Because that's the progression of
That's some
what's
real
happening.
superhero shit.
Exactly.
Literally, you learn.
real.
You learn
And
how
I call
to
it superpowers.
It is.
Yeah, I call it
is.
my superpowers, absolutely.
Man, so you like even after all of that, you established yourself as an entrepreneur
Yes.
in your career
Yes,
too.
yes.
You know, talk about some of the things that you've done.
Absolutely. So early on, and I always want to try to explain to people, first generation hip hop was the brunt of a lot of negativity, you know, in a business sense, you know.
Explain that. What you mean?
Well, we didn't really have the benefits of legal counsel. We didn't have the benefits of knowledge as far as how the inner workings of the business work.
Okay.
So when the score was added up, it was not added up in my favor early on. But as a child, I had an ability and a desire, and I was brought up around people that were entrepreneurs, and they passed that trait on to me. So my thing was not to stay defeated, but my thing was to get heated. You know what I mean? So I said, okay, when I realized at the time that it wasn't like it needed to be, at that point of hip hop, there weren't opportunities. We're talking about 85, not 95, 2005, where you could become an Ice Cube, or you could become an LL Cool J, or you become a Jay-Z. That opportunity wasn't for first generation hip hop. You know, that you cut a record and you toured. That's what you did. So my mind was, okay, this is not happening like I need it to happen. I'm going to go ahead and reinvent myself. So what I did was I actually ended up finding a direct sales door-to-door industry. And I went and knocked on doors and sold books and magazines for 3 years. And I learned how to deal with people, and I learned how to build businesses through that business. And I eventually ended up owning and operating the same company that I ended up knocking on doors for.
Wow.
Yeah.
You want to shout that company out right there?
It was the company. It was American Community Services. It was a sales organization called the Untouchables, and I ended up building a crew called Geo's Innovators, New Image, Rainbow Sales, a multitude of sales companies. At one point, we owned and were operating 100 or so salespeople nationwide, as far as what I was traveling with myself. And we were connected with, because we eventually ended up buying the customer service company that used to clear the orders that I sold door to door. I ended up owning that company. So we were doing business with probably 300 to 400 salespeople across the United States, 30 to 40.
Your image helped that a lot.
My as a musician?
Yeah, like
No.
people knowing who you
No,
were.
no. I totally reinvented myself. So I did everything, because again, it didn't become visual until the late 90s. So anything between 79 and 85 was audio.
Okay.
So somebody knew
didn't
all
know
my
who you were.
songs. People knew my songs, but I could walk down the street, the person wouldn't know who I
Because
am.
they hadn't seen you.
Right. So as I was knocking on doors, people didn't realize that I was an international recorder. They didn't know that.
Unless they was at a show.
Unless they might have seen me at a show, which, I mean, you know, I wasn't working those kind of neighborhoods. I was going into the affluent, you know, Caucasian persuasion kind of areas.
Gotcha.
And, you know, that wasn't the case. So as I built myself up as a business person, I kind of put this whole entertainment side of my life on hold. And I became a straight business person. And then I eventually went into, owning properties and, collaborating with other entrepreneurs along that journey. In 2005, and I made a decision between 1985 and 2005 to completely walk away from the music business. So 20 years, I was no part of being who I am today for 20 years. Yeah, I strictly owned and operated and built businesses, and that's what I was doing.
This is what the youth need to hear. Though,
Yeah.
'cause, like, you were an entertainer, an
Yes.
artist, right?
Platinum selling.
Platinum selling.
Yeah, not a local guy, not making a few records, not been.
Yeah,
I was
and
a
you-
platinum selling, television, anything that you think of, I was that person, and I reinvented myself. I had to.
It's needed though. Like
Yeah.
even them, they making this money that they making now. They need to be able to.
Well, the thing
to
is, and this is what I
transition.
try to explain to people, the thing that you have to understand is, unless you 100% control your destiny is going to be controlled by somebody else. You know, and when I realized that that was the case, I had to get busy getting busy. You know, and I had to figure out a way to put myself in a situation where I called my own shots. And that's what I really try to get across to the people that's out here today. Yes, the numbers are different, you know, and so the opportunities that you have are definitely different from the opportunities that I had. But the game ain't changed.
The game ain't changed.
So the thing that you have to be ready to do is pivot. And that's why I tell people, always understand that you cannot just be in one dimension. You're in a multi-dimensional situation, especially this music business. You're in a multi-dimensional situation. Look at Ice Cube. Look at Jay-Z. Look at all of these
They
different
pivoted.
cats that have evolved from just making records. You know, the young guy, you're making, you know, a fortune, you know, out there touring or whatever. That's fine. But there's gonna be a point, and we talked about this earlier in the show. Your fame has levels.
Yeah.
You know, your notoriety has moments. You know, you have your moment. I was in my moment when I was 17. You know what I mean? Somebody else, Wayne is in his moment now, or somebody, but everybody, your moment is gonna pass. You have to be ready for when that moment passes. And the way that you make yourself ready is to diversify and expand and put yourself in a situation where you call your shots and you control your destiny. And the only way you can control your destiny, is we're gonna go back to it,
Come on
is
now.
economic sovereignty.
That's a fact. You know what I mean? You can't put all your eggs in
No.
one basket.
No.
That's what he mean by diversify.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, find other things to put your money.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And make it work for you.
Yeah, so that's what I did. So that's been my journey. So in 2005, I was given the opportunity to resurrect the group again. So there was a lot of things that were going on in my absence that weren't making the brand Sugarhill the best brand. And then my partner, the guy that I started the group with, Wonder Mike, he stepped away from the original situation and was offered an opportunity in another situation. And the way it went down was that there's no way that we weren't able to do this chapter Sugarhill Gang unless you get G involved. And at that time, I was in the mindset and I had the tutelage to know how to handle my handle. And that's what we did. So we went on a journey from 2005 to today of repairing the brand, and that took a while. And then in 2016, we started rebuilding the brand, and that's what we do. And then that also opened up other opportunities.
Didn't the guy try to steal your name?
Yeah. So unfortunately, what happens is some people's reality is to live other people's reality. You know, and that's a tough life to live. You know, so this is a brother that, and he's no longer with us, God rest his soul, but he was a brother that was financially fortunate, but he was not fortunate enough talent-wise. So he tried to take on the persona that was created by my natural ability to do my thing. Because again, it wasn't visual until 90s, 2000s. So what he was doing is he was allowing people to believe that he was the person that was coming across on the music.
That's
that's
so
cold.
crazy. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so
That's cold.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta understand that, like, what's for you is for you. and you like you are you. You
Yeah.
can't go out here being somebody else.
Well, you know, he
can't.
tried. He tried for 20 years to dispel the fact that, you know, what was created was his creation. Now, he contributed to it. His mother was Sylvia, my
Okay.
producer.
Okay.
And he was there from day one, so he contributed to it. But what his story was, he was trying to get people to understand that the person that people came to love and admire and want to be connected to, he was that person.
And he won't.
Of course, you know, once I was in the position to deal with the situation, that's when I came back. And I didn't come back until I was in that position, because you can't half-ass fight a fight.
That's
You know what I mean? And that's what people make the mistake at sometimes. Sometimes, you know, I didn't think it was going to be 20 years before I came back, but it took me that long to make sure I was ready to fight the fight the way I needed to fight.
Man, it was a big name company that tried to steal from you guys, right? And didn't pan out in their favor, paying down in y'all's, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we're allowed to say the
we
name.
we don't want to say
Can't say the name, but
we don't want to say that name, but eventually, even with that situation,
do the research. I can do the research. Though, you know what I'm
right,
saying?
But eventually, even that situation was resolved, you know, and that's the thing that I always, you know, I only talk about those aspects of my life because I want people to realize, and we talked about this too, that, you know, my journey, based on what people see, seems like I've been wealthy my whole life.
Come on.
That I've been famous and wealthy and I've had this privilege, and that's not the case. I went door to door and sold books and magazines in the rain, in the snow, and you know, and I did that all over the country. I've been in Omaha, Nebraska, in the middle of a snowstorm, you know, Master Jeep, you know, knocking on people's doors, trying to get them to buy a subscription, you know. And now I fly, you know, all over the world, and I live in the most beautiful places and drive the most wonderful cars and extremely successful in the whole 9 yards. And, but I was, you know, I want people to understand you have to go through it. We talked about that. You got to go through it to get to it. Don't stop.
Come on.
I think the mistake, not the mistake. I think that the hurdle that happens to most people is when they get in the middle of adversity, they stop.
They get tired.
They get tired. And I'm telling you, even if it's a micro millimeter of a second, just keep moving in a forward direction. There were many days. And it's funny we sitting over here because I came to DC in 2013 and I was still building the brand. And I couldn't get arrested if you paid me. You know what I mean? We were that cold. I used to sit out here in this little area right here because we had the condo up here and I was here trying to reinvent myself. I used to sit out here and try to figure out, I was like, I don't know what my next move's gonna be. But I just kept moving forward.
It was an urge.
I knew. I used to tell people there's like a meeting room in this building over here, right? And I used to sit in this meeting room with another guy that lived in the building. And I was telling him, I'm telling you, 2013, 14, I was telling this guy, I said, listen, man, my next great move is about to happen. And I was telling him that when I literally was trying to figure out what my next move was going to be. But all I knew is that my next move was going to be a great move. And we're talking 10 years ago.
I do want to piggyback off something. You was talking about selling books. I know you said
books and magazines.
Yeah,
yes.
books and magazines.
Yes.
And one of the things.
Shout out to anybody that's still going door to door, by the way. 'Cause I know a lot of people that still are.
One of the things that you say you learned was how to deal with people. But what else did you learn?
So I learned image building. I learned developing of organizations. I learned management. I learned how to acquire the right people around you. One of the most important things that I learned was to surround myself with good people. One of the other important things that I learned, I had a really good teacher. A lot of people that taught me were roll up your sleeves kind of multimillionaires.
Get in the dirt.
Yeah. They weren't just, let's do the job and, get paid and go home. These were guys that they came from meager beginnings, but they built extreme wealth. And so they had those skills and they were able to transfer those skills to me. So one of the things that I learned was always have people in the room, know what's going on in the room, but have somebody in the room smarter enough to know the extra. So you can always check a person, but you got to have people that can come to you. And then the other thing that I try to preach to people is put people in a situation where they're comfortable to say what's on their mind and use their brain. You don't want to be around people that only want to tell you what they think you want to hear.
Yeah, you can't have no yes man.
No, that's the worst. That happens a lot of times to a lot of young entertainers as well, even old entertainers. Because I know
That's a part of fame too.
that's a big part of
Yeah,
fame.
you
Yeah,
know,
that's a big part of fame.
Get too famous to where
Right, you don't want people to
feel
tell
like
you
they
what's
can't
happening.
tell you.
And that's the worst thing
No.
you can do. It's the exact opposite. The more famous you are, the more you should have people around you. Everybody, all my businesses, you know, my entertainment company, my group business, I have people around me that, you know, if I'm a little out there, they be like, hey, G, man, look, man, come over here, man. Now, you might not be able to talk to me crazy in front of my people.
Yeah.
But you could pull me to the side.
And talk to
Or
me.
you could send me a text message. Or you could make a phone call. And be like, G, you tripping, dog. Come on, man. No, that ain't gonna work. That's not happening. And I have the respect, and the person has the respect for me to know that because I put you in the position to be on top of social media, you can tell me. I have Instagram right now because my team told me to do it. Because I went for years
Without it.
I'm not messing with this stuff. I don't want people to be
I bet you on Facebook though, right? You was on Facebook?
No.
You weren't on Facebook
No,
either?
no. I did no social media.
Usually everybody and their grandma.
I did no social media for years. Social media, Facebook, all of that for nothing. Nothing.
Old school.
Old school. I wasn't doing it because I come from a generation where you didn't tell your business. So to me, that everybody telling everybody's business, I wasn't with that. But what started happening is I got into many situations where people want to talk to me because of who I was, but they didn't want to do business because I didn't understand what was going on. So in order for me to make the right deals, because what would happen is, oh, Master G, we're a fan. Oh, we love your music. You know, we like what you're doing. We appreciate what's happening. Blah, 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 blah. We get into a conversation, and then the conversation would get down to, well, what's your social media presence?
And you ain't got nothing.
Oh, we love your music, and blah, 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 blah. And then I'd go to the next situation. I'm working to develop, you know, another business opportunity, and they're excited to meet me, and blah, blah. And then it gets down to that same. So now,
You got to pivot.
I got to pivot.
Yeah.
And all the while, everybody was saying, you got to do social media. You got to do some kind of social media. You got to do some. And finally, when I got to that point where I was like, you know what? Stop doing what you're doing. Listen to your people.
Yes.
I started Instagram. So now that's why I have Instagram. I have Instagram. We have an official Sugarhill gang page. We have a social media presence. And the reason, and it becomes relative. You become relative. You become relevant.
Come on now.
And that's what my goal was. Like we talking about merging the young and the new. I was working to be relevant. So now the person asked me, you know, what's your social media? Because, you know, I do an interview. People say, where can they reach you on, you go to Master G, original Master G, blah, blah, blah. I didn't have that conversation back in the day. But now I can say, go to Master G Sugarhill and you pull up Instagram and, you know, it's this and it's shows and it's all these different things. And, you know, we went viral on the MTV thing. We got like a viral 1 million views and all these different things. Now I become relevant.
Yes.
Now the person doubles back and he says, oh, okay, yeah. Tell me more.
And just to that point, the relevant part, it gives the youth and everybody your story.
Exactly.
It gives them that person that they can relate to,
Right.
and say, you know what? He went through the mud, and I can learn from him.
That's right.
So now you can drop these jewels of wisdom.
Well, that's what I'm doing. That's what I said. That's what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
I always make sure that I explain to people that I know what it's like to be poor.
Come on now.
I know what it's like to be, you know, hungry and homeless.